Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new Western Alliance Era 2 Premium Tank Destroyer, the Chieftain Concept Test Rig, or the Chieftain CTR. This is one of the very few tanks in Cold War to have come out that actually has it just has no turret. And on the whole, it's a pretty decent tank destroyer. If you keep this thing at distance, it will be able to do a hell of a lot of damage very, very quickly. And that is because this gun, this 120mm gun it gets, which is the same as what you get on the Chieftain 120 and the other Chieftains and stuff like that, is phenomenal. It is incredible. It does so much damage very, very quickly. It aims in really, really quickly, and it's exceptionally accurate. The mobility of the tank is a little bit slow, and the armour is troll, and it's troll like the Pharaoh's Fury in Era 2, in the fact that against standard rounds, and against rounds that are like 400 pen minus, so, you know, those that are 400 pen and below, they really will struggle with this tank's hull armour. The hull armour on this tank is fantastic, but they can pen the lower plate, so you do have to be careful of that. But on the whole, if they hit anywhere on this superstructure, they'll bounce. And obviously you've got a cupola on top that they can pen too. But this is why I say it's troll and not the most reliable in the universe at times. And that is because if they load premium and start going for like say this thing loaded premium and fired its own superstructure on flat, a lot of the time it might actually go through. And it just seems to work. And then not at all. And ATGMs are another one for that. In that the amount of times I've had ATGMs hit me here and not do any damage or do like 200 damage is a lot. But then randomly, you'll get a full pen 1200 damage ATGM through this upper plate. And you're like, what? What was that? So it's a little bit frustrating like that. I do think it is a pretty good tank though. And especially if you play it right, put it in the right positions, you will end up smashing the damage through the enemy teams really, really quickly. The problem is it's a little bit slow to get to position sometimes. And obviously it's got the problem that it has no turret. And the no turret is a real big problem, especially in Era 2, where there's a lot of YOLO light tanks that are very, very quick, and a lot of tanks in general that are pretty damn fast, and they can quite easily get behind you, and no matter what you do, no matter how you set it up, they will be able to stay behind you no matter what, which is definitely a problem for the tank. But without further ado, let's get into the statistics of the Chieftain Concept Test Rig. So, it's got a 750 horsepower engine with a 48 km/h top speed and a 26 km/h reverse speed, 13.33 horsepower per ton ratio. It does generally hit this 48 km/h top speed, which is quite decent, and the reverse speed is definitely very nice as well. It's just a little bit slow for Era 2 though. It's starting to get a lot of tanks going 55 to 60, so that can hold you back at times with this tank for sure. You've got a 10% internal fire chance, which is on the lower end of the fire chances. You've got 2.6k HP, which is pretty nice for trading with, and like I say, generally you don't actually get penned that often if you're facing people frontally, and it's pretty intermittent in that regard, so it's quite nice to have that in case they do pen you, and then you can just start wrecking them with your DPM. You got 38 degrees a second hull traverse, which is pretty quick, but again, it does struggle a little bit to keep up with tanks that are zooming past it to try and keep the gun on target, but it can be pretty quick, and you can also help that to get even better with clutch braking, traction system, etc, etc. You've got 1.7 on soft, 1.2 on medium, and 1.1 on firm. The ground resistances for this tank are great, and they do not hold this tank back whatsoever. You've got 307 meters of steel concealment, which is pretty good for a TD in Era 2, and you can make this thing pretty damn invisible with smoke, camo net, etc. I think you can get it down to about 110 meters of steel concealment, which is really, really good, and it helps you to get those surprise shots out. And actually, if you are playing this tank correctly, which is probably a bit more further away generally, it means that you can farm a lot more, and they really have to try and scan to find you before, you know, before you basically have already penned them 3-4 times before they've actually found you, which is quite nice. It's nice to make the camo on this thing really, really good. And you've got 510 meters view range, which is pretty decent for Era 2. You've got 36 degrees a second on the turret rotation apparently, but that's actually the gun traverse speed. If you see turret rotation speed for a turretless tank destroyer, that literally means how fast the gun traverses, because some guns in turretless TDs traverse very, very slow, and it takes a little while for it to swivel each way. In this thing, it's pretty quick at 36 degrees a second. You've got apparently 0.37 accuracy during turret rotation, which is again on gun traverse, so when the gun actually turns left to right, you've got 0.37 accuracy, which is fantastic. You've got 20 degrees of elevation, which is great. You've got 10 degrees of gun depression, which is fantastic. This thing on a ridgeline is phenomenal because it makes the armour incredible. And then also, you can just use any sort of ridgeline known to man with 10 degrees of gun depression. And that's lovely. You do have a -15 and a 15 degree of yaw limit, so that's how far the gun traverses to the left and right. It's 15 degrees, which isn't that much. And like I say, it is a little bit of a struggle sometimes when tanks do go flying past you. You've got a 7.6 second reload, which is pretty quick, which gives you a base DPM of 4.1, well, nearly 4.2k, which is beautiful. You've got 0.26 accuracy, which again is phenomenal base. That is absolutely brilliant. You've got just 1.0 accuracy during movement, so you just got bang on 1 for the accuracy during movement, which is absolutely phenomenal. It means the gun doesn't bloom whatsoever, really. You got a 1.5 second aim time as well, which means that the gun really does zoom in very, very quick. The accuracy on this tank, the gun on this tank is phenomenal, like I say. It is brilliant. You've got APDS as standard, APFSDS as premium, and HESH as the third. I mean, these two rounds naturally, in terms of mechanics, work exactly the same. They're basically like APCR. And the HESH is lovely. You've got 418 pen, just like a Chieftain 120, with 418 on the standard, 483 on premium, and 290 on the HESH rounds. 290 pen HESH rounds with 680 alpha is beautiful. And when you go against Leopards, MX-30s, light tanks in general, you absolutely shred them. The DPM becomes just dank. It just becomes dank when you start firing the HESH at people and it starts penning. It is a beautiful round to use, which is why I run the advanced reload, because you can just shred tanks really, really quickly, and it's beautiful. You do have 530 damage on your standard rounds as well, which is pretty damn nice. You have 1530 meters a second shell velocity on your standard and premium round, and on your HESH round, so bear in mind if you switch to HESH, you only have 660 meters a second shell velocity, which is pretty damn slow, and you really do have to adjust for that. And in terms of a silver bonus, it does only have 150% silver bonus, which is on the low end of silver bonuses for Era 2 premiums. You do have 125% commander bonus, though, which is pretty damn nice. It will train up commanders pretty decently as well. So let's have a quick look at the armour for you. So you can see here, so that you can pause and have a look at it. You've got 349 in the Rivet of Doom behind the gun, apparently. 340 there. The upper plate is 250. The mid plate is 200. The cupola has 152 on there. The upper plate again has another 101mm panel behind the 250 panel. So effectively we're going at what? 351 so far, which is pretty damn nice. Adding, you've got 88mm of side armour, which means obviously if you angle in like this and you keep trying to wiggle and bounce shots, you will bounce shots like that, which is quite nice. And yeah, your rear, which is something you're going to have to be careful of, is only 25mm thick. Although it does have random bits of spaced armour slapped on it. So HE will detonate if they hit the upper section. But if they hit the lower section, any type of HE is going to go straight into your back end. And that's not going to be pretty. You don't want HE in the back end. Trust me, it hurts. And yeah, that's the armour layout for the Chieftain CTR, which is why I say that this tank is really hit and miss with its armour, because with the two plates it's 350mm of armour, which then adds in the space, and there's all sorts of mechanics behind that, which means you're probably looking at about 400, and the sloping as well, you're probably looking at 400mm plus effectiveness, which means any sort of round like that is probably not going to go in. But as soon as you get a tank like this that's firing 483mm of penetration, it probably will just go through the upper plate quite a lot at times. And obviously they can just go through the lower plate as well if they want to, or the mid plate, I should say. Without further ado, let's go have a look at the commander, which I have stuck in the ONTOS. I would not use this commander for the ONTOS, but you get the point. So let's put it in the Chieftain CTR. So we run, in terms of a commander, Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Track Mechanic, Steady Aim, Clutch Braking, General Mechanic, Silent Driving, Camouflage Expertise. So I run these 4 perks, because you're going to run these on most tanks you're going to use. I run, well, these 5 perks generally. You're going to use these on pretty much all tanks in Cold War. Clutch Braking to try and make it so that I can turn the tank as quickly as possible, just to add to that track traverse, because obviously when things do get round you, that is death, so you want to make the track traverse better. Camouflage expertise and silent driving to just make the camo really good, because the camo can be phenomenal on this tank. And it can be really, really handy to use, especially at range, where people have to try and find what's shooting at them. And general mechanic, because this tank, again, getting tracked is death. So general mechanic and track mechanic together make the tracks get back on within like 3 seconds, 4 seconds, which means the tracks get back on very, very quickly, and that is beautiful. And again, the amount of times you will get tracked in this, and then there's things that can perma-track you really easily in this era, just by firing their normal round. Yeah, you want to get your tracks back on as quickly as possible and make sure you're going to do it. But obviously there's plenty of things. I mean, the gun is that phenomenal that sometimes you could actually probably get away with not running steady aim and run something else. But you could run something like armor angling to make sure that you're reducing the amount of damage coming in. You could run situational awareness just to boost your range up a little bit. Mark target maybe to keep things lit up for a bit longer. The supply conservation to try and get your smoke back quicker, which could be quite useful because that would put a really meaningful reduction in the amount of time you have to wait for your smoke. Obviously, if you feel like you get set on fire enough, you can put these on. If you feel like your ammo rack goes, you can put safe stowage on. Although I've not really been ammo racked in this tank properly yet. There's many, many things you could do with the tank. That's just the way I set it up. That's just the template, really. Set it up like that when you get going, and then see how you feel and change it up. So I do run smoke because, like I say, I want to make the camo on this thing filthy. And then in terms of equipment, I run the advanced loader, the advanced reload, and the camo net. Now again, this is a tank that has multiple different ways to set it up. I run the camo net to make the camo dank. I run the advanced reload because I love using the HESH on this tank, and I like using the different types of rounds that this tank has. But if you don't, or if it confuses you, or if you get muddled up when you're trying to change between the different rounds, you can quite easily get rid of advanced reload and run the traction system instead, which will help you with your top speed, get up to 52 kilometers an hour, and have better track traverse. It's completely down to you, or you could make your DPM even better with vents. It's down to you and how you want to set up the tank. I just like using the HESH rounds, so that's why I run advanced reload. And I had like 2 or 3 games at the start playing this thing that I was like, I want to use the HESH, but I've loaded standard and I've got to wait an extra couple of seconds to then load the HESH, etc, etc. So it's completely down to you and how you want to set it up. And advanced reload, or advanced loader, because you want to make your DPM as good as possible always. So let's go have a look at the tank while it's fully equipped. So with this tank, you can see we've got up to a 41.114 degrees a second traverse speed, so we've gone up about 3 degrees a second, which is damn nice. And you can get that up to about 45 degrees a second with the traction system as well, which is really quite quick. You've now got 110 meters of still concealment, which is absolutely beautiful. That is ridiculously good for Era 2, and it will make you very, very hard to spot. You've got 531 meters of view range, which again is pretty okay. You got 37.55 degrees a second of gun traverse as well now. The reload is at 5.84 seconds. Obviously, you can make this even better if you run food instead of the smoke as well. You got 0.22 accuracy at 100 meters, which is phenomenal. 1.44 second aim time, which again is beautiful. 0.85 accuracy during movement, which is just fantastic. Say the gun stats for this tank are incredible, which is how it has to be with having no turret. And yeah, this camo stat is also absolutely fantastic. It gets you out of dodge a lot. It means you can get yourself unspotted a lot. And you can actually farm a lot of damage on people without them realising, because you're not spotted. Because obviously camo in Cold War is still something. Obviously they can physically see you, but the amount of people that don't focus on tanks that are unspotted is insane. And it means that you can get so much more damage off before they realise what's going on. And then they have to try and focus you out somehow, some way. And even then, half the time people don't find you. But yeah, that's the Chieftain Concept Test Rig. It's a pretty damn nice tank. You can do a lot of damage with it. You can make a lot of silver with it. It's definitely a lot. I found it quite fun to play. But on the whole, there's a problem with it, and that is the fact that it doesn't have a turret. And that will frustrate a lot of people because of the fact that there's so many tanks that are really quick. There's a lot of tanks that will just get round you, and once they get round you, it's curtains most of the time. And the armour can be a little bit frustrating as well, because it's like, oh my god, I'm a god. The armour's fantastic, and then sometimes it just goes, nah, not anymore. Sorry. So yeah, it's one of those tanks that if you think it looks like something you might enjoy playing, then, it's something that you might you might decide to play. If there's a tank that if you don't like playing with turretless tank destroyers, this is not going to be the tank for you. It's purely down to your perception of how you like to play the game, really, for this tank, just because of the way it is. And in terms of the cost, it is 12,900 gold, which is a hell of a lot of gold. You're probably best just waiting to see if it goes on some sort of discount, like you've seen here with the MBT70 or the FE201 T95E1. You never know. It might go on sale at some point in the distant future at that sort of price, but it's completely down to you. So as always, everybody, I'm going to send you over to the replays where you can decide and you can watch it play in action and you can see how it handles and you can also see how it generally gets taken out as well. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the replays. So here we are in the replays with the Chieftain CTR, and the first game we are on Corellia. And on Corellia, this first game is probably more likely what happens, or what will happen a fair amount to CTR drivers, where we're going to push into a position where we can use this tank's strengths, which is good gun depression, fantastic DPM, and the good frontal armour. We're going to push ourselves into a position where we can do it, and we end up losing a bit of the team support, and the enemy team basically just YOLO past us, and we can't do too much about it. So on Corellia, what I'm going to do is, because we've got quite a lot of people coming this way, I'm going to push aggressively to this little ridge line here in front of us next to this rock. Because if we do that, we can use the 10 degrees of gun depression, get hull down, and then start farming the shots in. So you can see here, this first game is without the advanced reload. This is with the traction system. And yeah, I went to switch to Hesh and then went, oh, I've not got the ammo swapper. And made that mistake. But we're going to start trying to put the damage in now. So we get a shot into the Mobat and something just goes straight through. It just goes straight through the upper plate there. And this is what I mean by the armour on this tank. Sometimes it's wonderful. And then sometimes tanks just pen it. And you go, what? Come on, game. Why? You know, it's one of those tanks with that type of armour, which can be just frustrating. But we get a nice shot in through the Mobat. We're now looking for shots into the RDF-LT that's running around, but we can't see it through the smoke, which was actually our own team's smoke. So he ends up getting shut down by the Leopard 185 anyway. So now we're going to focus on the 2AV in front of us. Put a nice shot through the 2AV's upper plate. And this guy is now the focus of our attention because we can make it so that no one else in front of us can shoot us except for this AV, and we can really go into town on him with the DPM. Now the Mobat's coming, it's like, oh god, here comes the Mobat, he's charging, he ends up ramming us for only 300, and we're just going to start trying to keep our gun on target, keep the shots flying in, and this is where it's like, please team, help, please, we've got two heavies behind us, the guys on the hill, the Mobat does get shut down. Now the BMP is going for shots at us, and we're just trying to get our gun on target. He ends up going into making the mistake and not sticking to our back end, which means that we can get him to our front. We now go for the Hesh, because the Hesh will be able to go through a BMP unless we get unlucky and hit spaced armour, which of course we do. We still hit him for 321 though, and we get shut down by the AV, who also YOLO'd past us. That's just what happens when tanks decide that you're going to die in a CTR, well, with a turretless tank destroyer. We couldn't keep ourselves in a position where we could use our armour. We couldn't get our gun on target half the time, and unfortunately we got destroyed. But you can also see with the 4th place, the 5.9k damage, if you do get to a position like that, like we had on Corellia, and you don't sort of then end up getting attacked instantly, you can rack up damage really, really quickly. I mean, we did rack up that 5.9k damage very quickly, and you saw how nice the gun can be there. The gun can be pretty damn phenomenal in this tank. And then you mix in the DPM, and it is pretty damn good. So we're on to the second replay. In the second replay, we are on this map, which is Kasserine. And on Kasserine, what I want to try and do is get to the position at G3. And I can try and spot out, well, I can try and physically look for any tanks that cross the A line so that I can get some free shots into them. Because there always seems to be one or two tanks that do cross the A line, and that way you can get some free damage on them. And you can see we are pretty slow to get to that position though. We're doing about 45, 47. I do have the ammo swapper in this replay, and it's just, the mobility can be a little bit of a chore sometimes, just because of how fast everything is in Era 2. Or a lot of the tanks are in Era 2, I should say, because there's still a few tanks, like the tank this is based on, like the Chieftain, that is a little bit slow. But it's just the slowness to get to the position. Half the time when you get to a position like this, they've probably already made that cross along the A line. And yeah, you're not going to be able to actually get into a position to shoot them because they've already gone, which can be a little bit sad. So we're going after the M103A2 in the middle, because I was like, you know what, actually, let's just go for this M103 3, because you can play a little bit aggressively, you can be in people's faces a little bit, because the armour on this tank can work, like I say. We get a Hesh round straight through the side of the M103 turret for 680 something. We again go for the cupola, but we miss. Probably would have been better just to fire the APFSDS. He puts himself in a weird angle, so we decided to go for the APDS, the standard round, and unfortunately we only did track damage, we didn't actually pen that guy. But now he's gone, we know where a fair few of their team is. They're all in that dip at H7, so what I want to try and do is get into a position to shoot them. But just as I was moving over there, it was like, oh, actually, there's 2 CTRs here, I can see these guys. And you can see, we're 155 metres away from that Chieftain CTR. He couldn't actually spot us. He could have obviously physically seen us, but he couldn't spot us, and because we didn't get spotted, he never reacted to us until we shot him, which is, again, where that camo is great. If I didn't have the camo net there and the smoke, he would have seen me, or he would have spotted me, and then he'd have been like, oh, a tank, and then shot at me, whereas I managed to get the chance in to get actually the shot into that CTR, before he even realised I was there, because just didn't get spotted, because he was physically spotting, well, he was physically clearly looking at someone else. And that's the thing, that's why camo is still important in Cold War, because if you don't get spotted, people won't react to you. But the moment you do get spotted, and it pops up, spotted, a big red thing in someone's face, they all of a sudden go, oh no, a tank, and then they'll react to you. So that's why I like having this camo on this tank, because it is pretty damn nice for that. And like you see, you can shoot stuff like the Bandit and the Forad, who were focused on, again, the 4-2-1-1 in front of them, up until I get spotted, and now they're starting to try and shoot me. And they were just letting me shoot them, essentially, until that moment. It's why you do want to set up some tanks that are not really, they haven't really got any armour and can get good camo, like some of the tank destroyers. You want to set them up for camo in some sort of way. So as you can see, you managed to get a shot into the RDF who came out. We're trying to still get some shots into the Bandit and into the Forad. We try and get a shot into the side of the Bandit there, but it just misses. There's a heavy tank getting wrecked in the dip to our left, and he ends up getting shot down. I'm still keeping an eye on these guys in front of us, because we don't want to get shot in the side by them, and if we keep our frontal armour to them, obviously it's going to make it quite hard for them to be able to penetrate us. So now I'm going to do something very, very aggressive. I'm actually going to drive in front of this Bandit, because what I want to do is try and isolate the Forad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive around over these ridge lines in front of me, switch to Hesh, because I can pen the 30B2 Forad with the Hesh and make him suffer, essentially. You can set him on fire quite nicely as well. And we're going to get up into his face. He ends up popping smoke and ended up firing at someone else. We're just coming around to see if we can get a shot into him, and there he's actually running away. But he hasn't really paid attention to us, so we put a shot into him for 677 there with the Heichi, or the Hesh. Now we've got his lower plate, we put another shot into him for 646. Once again, you're seeing how good the DPM can be. We go for another shot into him there, which I'm not sure actually penned him, but we did track him and he got set on fire by someone else, which is feeding his tracking assist. And again, you saw with the armour again here, by the way, against that Bandit, all of a sudden, he just decided he could pen us really quite easily, no matter what. And it's like, what? How was he all of a sudden? Because he was penning us straight through the upper plate there. And it's a little bit of the frustration with the armour on this tank, like I say, where it's great, and then it's really not. Just like the Ferris Fury, in a way, where the Ferris Fury armour is really, really nice, and it's really good up until the fact that they've got 400 plus penetration, and then they start going through it really easily, which can be a bit annoying. So now there's 2 FV4211s left on the enemy team. They are directly in front of us. We've loaded the premium rounds because that's the best way of getting rid of them. Put a shot straight through the upper plate of one that's damaged his ammo rack. We go for the drive wheel there to try and track and pen him, but we only pen him, which we can't moan at. And he ends up getting shut down by the Leopard 1A1. And finished the game with a pretty damn nice total for the Chieftain CTR there. Finished one kill, 6,056 damage, 1,600 assistance, 2.2k blocked. The second class, 1,370 base XP, a pretty average game there for the Chieftain CTR. And it showed, again, the strength of the tank, where the armour can be pretty nice, and then it really not. The gun's phenomenal, and then the abuse that you can dish out with those Hesh rounds when it works is just lovely. And you can really maximise your DPM by firing those Hesh rounds, because it's just, they are so dirty. 290 pen will go through most things in the era, if it's not spaced armour. And then add to that, you've got 680 damage. Hell yeah! Beautiful scenes. The only thing with this really is the fact that this gun is phenomenal for this Chieftain CTR, But you've got a tank out there that is a similar price in the Chieftain Hybrid 120 that has 65 kilometers an hour mobility. Not really got any armor, but it's got sort of troll angles that can ricochet shots, and it's got a fully traversable turret with the same gun and DPM, which is in the same region, which means that you can just have a turreted tank with the same gun dish out stupid amounts of damage with that anyway, you know? So there are better tanks out there than this Chieftain CTR, and I think there's a lot better picks out there for most people, because like I said, this tank is going to be frustration for a fair amount of people, because this limited gun traverse, the fact that you don't have a turret can be pretty awkward in a fair few situations, like you saw in the first replay, and that can be just a little bit annoying to play in general. And obviously 12,900 damage, 12,900 gold is a lot of gold for something that can be frustrating in quite a few situations. So we're on the third replay, and there is 2 more replays after this as well. You've got a bumper helping of gameplay, and we are on Duckler Pass, and well, it's go around like a donut Duckler Pass, because that's what happens with it in Era 2 and Era 3 on Cold War. Always, the teams just go around like a donut. They end up just, their team full sends down the 9 line, then the K line. Our team just goes up the 3 line and then down the B line. That's just the way it goes on this map, sadly. We get a shot into the 30B, then something pens us, and I'm just like, what is it? I just physically cannot see it. I do not know where that tank is that was shooting at me, that penned me, and it's like, okay, you know what, screw that, I'm not going to deal with that. We've only got 1 shot of damage so far, which was the shot into that 30B, and I see the amount of tanks on the 4-5 line. It's like, you know what, let's use the pretty good armor on this tank. Let's go get ourselves up alongside a building round here and get ourselves shooting down this choke point. Because this tank can be pretty damn good at those choke points, because of the fact that the armor is pretty damn good and the DPM is phenomenal. So we get ourselves up next to this building here, and we start to put in the hurt. We get a shot into the 2AV there, just waiting for the reload to get another shot in, but he ends up driving away. We've now got the 4-2-1-1. We load the APC, well, the premium round, and we go straight through his lower plate. Just aiming for the lower plate again, and we get the shot straight in. We're up to 2016 damage, just waiting for the reload. You can see some of the shots are flying past. We try and get another shot into the 4-2-1-1, and unfortunately, the shot ended up just going wide. Now we've got a shot into the Magak, which we get straight through. As most of the time, this tank will hit these shells. Put a shot straight through the Centurion 9's upper plate. Could have loaded Hesh, really, against that guy. But we're just sort of in that sort of situation where we just got to keep firing. And this is what I'm talking about. We're bouncing shots, but we're also just getting penned. Because some of these guys are firing premium rounds. Some of these guys aren't. The guys firing premium rounds are going straight through. The guys not are bouncing. It is what it is for this tank, sadly. So we do notice that the FV421 is going along on our right hand side. We get the RBRT, and unfortunately the 1A5 actually shuts it down before we get the shot in. Now there's a rock crawler and a bandit in front of us. We're just trying to put some hurt into the bandit and the rock crawler. If we can get rid of the rock crawler, that'd be great, because naturally he can just splash us, because he's got a big 183mm gun, and he will do a lot of damage to us with a splash. There's a possibility as well he could pen us with the AP rounds, but that's only if it hits the cupola. Now we've got the bandit going in on our right hand side, and we're keeping tracked, but this is where general mechanic and track mechanic is helpful, because we managed to keep getting the tracks back on really quickly, and thankfully we managed to turn just in time to bounce the shot from the bandit. He ends up ricocheting off our upper plate and getting away from our gun just in time there before we could end up shutting him down. We're just backing up. We see the rock crawler. He gets shut down. There's only 3 tanks left in the enemy team, and this bandit is attacking our medium tank. So we swivel, and you can see, even at full turn and on the move, the gun bloom was basically non-existent. It just didn't move, and we were fully aimed just to shut down that bandit there. The Conqueror on the enemy team gets shut down by the 30B2 4AD, meaning there's only 1 tank left. It is a TD somewhere, it's a CTR somewhere. And I was thinking, where is this guy? I've not seen him on the map. Maybe he's in the corner somewhere. But actually, he's near our base, and they must have been able to just physically see him, because they're charging in to go shut down the CTR. And sadly for me, that is the end of the game. But, you know, we blocked 3.5k damage. You saw the armor there where, look how many shots there are at the upper plate. Lots of the shells bounce, but also lots of the shells just go straight through. We end up with only 200 hit points, but we finished with the victory. The second place, 6,011 damage, 909 assistance, 3.5k blocked. The third class, the Confederate, 1234 base XP, pretty damn nice game for the Chieftain CTR again. Probably a fairly average game again for the tank, where if you stick yourselves in a position where you can hold a choke point, you can do pretty well with this tank. And we're on to the fourth replay. This is the second to last replay, and this one is a pretty damn good game for the CTR. This is actually the second best game I've had in it, but behind the next replay in the tank. And this one we're on Nomini Nom, and on Nomini Nom, I am going to charge to the position at A7, A8, somewhere on those ridge lines. And I can try and get hull down there and shoot the people that tend to camp on the ridge lines about E9. And also you can get shots at people that try across the 9-0 as well, which is pretty nice. So we're just going to try and get there. You can see, again, we're just a little bit slow. 48 kilometers an hour does feel slow in Era 2, which is mad, because 48 kilometers an hour isn't even that bad. And we just going with the flow, really. The M60A1 ends up getting spotted at the back, so we put a shot straight through his drive wheel, which is good. And then we end up going, okay, you know what, he's still looking at us, let's pop some smoke, and then let's keep crossing. But unfortunately, that M60A1 actually still hit us anyway. Sad times, but it is what it is. And we are now getting towards the ridgeline where we want to be. There's a medium tank there, which is a bandit. Not spotted yet again, so we have the time to switch into the Hesh round, slap that shell through his lower plate. 751, by the way. Beautiful scenes, Hesh. Beautiful scenes. There's a Chieftain 120 on our left, which is awkward. We get a shot straight through his turret front, though, because, like I say, the Chieftain 120 doesn't really have any armor. It just has angles. Now we have a shot for the drive wheel of the bandit, which we pummel straight through. And to be honest, we go for the Hesh for the lower plate, and it misses. Realistically there, we should have just stuck with the APDS, because we could have actually kept this guy permatracked and got rid of him a little bit earlier. But, yeah, we make mistakes. It is what it is. We're up to 2.2k damage. We can see all the guys at the back. We slap a shot through the M60A2, but we're having to be very, very careful, because this Chieftain Hybrid 120 is behind us. We get a shot through his drive wheel, which doesn't pen him, but it does track him in place, and he ends up having to burn his repair kit. Now we have shots into the Leopard 1A5 and the Bandit. We try and get a shot into the 1A5, but unfortunately the shot just goes somewhere. It ricocheted, but it ended up just missing. It was a pretty poorly led shot, if we're honest. We try and get a shot into the Hybrid 120, but it doesn't go anywhere near. The Leopard 1A5 is running away. We aren't going to be able to get a shot into him. We know there was something on that ridgeline over there, but we can't physically see it because of the foliage. And then we finally get shot by it, and it's like, okay, you know what, let's try and get a shot into the Tyran 6. The Bandit tries to get a shot into us, but bounces. We get a shot into him. The Chieftain 120 goes for the shot and ends up bouncing as well. And then the Bandit does track us in place, which is a little bit awkward. But again, because of the track mechanic and general mechanic, we do get the tracks back on very, very quickly. Unfortunately, we missed the shot on the Chieftain Hybrid 120. He is a focus, because if we get rid of that guy off of our flank, we don't have to keep turning to our left, which is why we keep doing it. Every time we've been firing, you've seen me pull back and turn to my left instantly. That is to make sure that they can't... Well, that Chieftain Hybrid 120 doesn't have easy shots into my side like he did in the first shot. Unfortunately, we end up bouncing on the tank that was at the back. This is the first time we don't instantly turn to the left, and the Chieftain Hybrid 120 actually made the most of it and got a shot in. We get a bit lucky there that that shot flew in and tracked and penned that Chieftain 120, but we'll take what we take. He is now going to get pressured by a medium tank, though, so I can stop really worrying about him quite as much. We get a shot into the tank that is currently sat in those bushes. The ATGM flies in and hits us through the upper plate from the M60A2. But with his 450 pen ATGM, the likelihood of him actually doing a full damaging shot of ATGM through the upper plate is highly unlikely, which is what happened. We go for a blind shot in towards that Conqueror that's up there with him, but it ends up missing. So I decide, okay, there's only 5 tanks. Let's use some of our 8 points. Let's get some shots into these guys that are down below. So we get a shot through the FV4211. The Conqueror is trying to look for shots into us, so we get a shot into him. He's still looking for us again. We're just waiting for the reload, and unfortunately we don't quite get the shot towards him. We do pop it blind, but it doesn't actually go anywhere near. He ends up pulling out again, though, so we put another shot straight through his side. And we're just going to go for another blind fire, because you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and unfortunately for me, he wasn't there. The Rock Crawler misses. We switched to the APCR. Well, we were going to switch to the standard round, but We only have 2 rounds of those left, and we're just going to keep smashing the shots through this rock crawler. He's on 520 hit points, which means a 50-50 really to kill him, and thankfully our roll is true, and we shut down that rock crawler. And that was a bit of a brawl. We never really stopped firing in that 5 minutes there, and we ended up with 9.5k damage to 2.6k. We got the side shot on the Conqueror. What? Gone? How did that miss? That looked like it went straight to his turret side. That must have flown just above his turret, but it looked like it was flying straight in. And sadly, we didn't get to kill the Conqueror with that shot, and he gets shut down by the Bandit. The M60A2 is also being pressured by the medium tank of the light tank again, which means the likelihood is I'm not going to get a shot in to shut that guy down, which is sad, sad times for the Chieftain CTR. But he does shut down the RDF LT, so maybe the medium tank is trying his best to shut him down. We're trying to get there, and the Brenner finally actually shuts the guy down. And we finished the game with 9.5k damage, 353 assistance. Finished with the victory. We came second on the team with that 9.5k damage, the Confederate, the High Caliber, the second class, 1484 base XP. A pretty nice game there for the Chieftain CTR. Only a second class apparently, but that's because we didn't really get any kills, and kills are very important for the base XP. And we're on to the 5th and final replay of the video. And we're on this map, which is Mannheim. And on Mannheim in the Chieftain CTR, what we're going to do is we're going to try and get ourselves into a position where we can shoot along this bridge. Because what I want to try and do is get ourselves into the position where we can see the people that will probably camp up on the other side of this bridge and try and get ourselves some free shots. And in the meantime, it actually keeps the enemy to our fronts as well, which is kind of handy. So we're just looking down the scope as we're moving. Naturally, as you see, we actually see an APDS round fly into the light tank, which means there is something at the far end of here. So we're just going to keep ourselves moving along so that we can actually try and find it and give ourselves some lovely free damage. It's always the best thing to do when you're travelling along this highway is to just keep aiming down the sights, because you see tanks like that. And we saw that Leopard 1A1 just before he managed to get behind the foliage so that we wouldn't have been able to see him. And we got a nice shot through him for 492. We're still seeing that Leopard moving, so we pop a shot straight through his side. He gets shot by the CTR next to me, and is for some reason just staying in front of us. We put another shot into him, 584. He gets shut down by the other CTR, who is going to play just as big a part in this game as I am. CTR power, British power, yes, let's go. So the CTR ends up firing along there, and I was thinking, did he see someone that I missed? Couldn't see it, so it's like, okay, you know what, we're just going to try and get ourselves into a position to shoot these guys in the side, because there's quite a few people down there, so maybe we can get some shots down here. And you can see, again, we didn't get spotted, we are still not spotted. We switched to Hesh, and the M60 just stops. Naturally, the M60 looked like he was going to keep going forwards, and he just stopped. We get the Hesh round through the side of his turret for 628, because we campaigned that guy in the side of the turret with the Hesh. But it's making it a bit awkward to get the shot in, so I go for the standard round. This little rail that we're going over is making it pretty awkward as well, by the way, because it just means the gun keeps bobbling up and down. Something takes the shot at us and misses, and we can't quite see it. We don't know where that M60's gone. I feel like it's gone behind that corner somewhere. The Bandit drives out in front of us. It's like, hello, Mr. Bandit. Thank you for driving out in front. He ends up bouncing us with the RBRT. We try and get the second shot in, and unfortunately, that ends up missing. Now there's an on-toss directly behind us. We switch to the Hesh because we're like, yummy. And we put the Hesh straight through the side of that guy for 750. Yes, please. And we try and get the Hesh shell into the Scorpion 90 as well. Should have just switched to APDS because we would have had the shell velocity to actually hit him there. That's where the 660 Hesh shell velocity can really hold you back when you're firing at distance or firing at something that's quick in general. That Scorpion 90's crossed the buildings, but he's in a position maybe we'll still be able to get a shot into him. So we're just trying, but again, we can't quite find it. But we do get a shot into him, though, as he goes off into the smoke. This CTR is firing at 2 guys down here, so you know what? I'm going to try and get myself into a position to help him out, try and double our DPM, essentially, because it's 2 CTRs. Switch to APDS to try and shut down this 4-2-1-1. Go through his upper plate again. And we're just going to keep trying to keep the DPM flowing. Going for that upper deck spot on the 4-2-1, and unfortunately our shell just ricochets. The M60 is still trying to shoot me and the other CTR. We get shot straight through his lower plate. I was thinking maybe I could actually hesh this guy's lower plate, which we could, but I decided, okay, he's one shot now. For our standard round, we may as well fire the standard round, and we shut him down. There's a medium tank on our right, which is a WZ-122. It would be great to get rid of him. He's realised, so we get a shot into his side before he gets away. There is currently 7 tanks left, and what timing that was. I did not intend that, but we take that every day. We get a shot into the Sheridan, who fired the round at us. We get another shot into him, putting him down to a 1-shot, and for some reason, he's still hanging about, and he gets shut down by the other CTR. Yet again, it's another reason why it's great to be able to stay unspotted, because that Sheridan basically lost us, and he thought, oh, maybe I can pop over and try and shoot these guys, and if I can see them. And he was clearly trying to find us, and then he got shut down by the other CTR. So we know there's a WZ-122 on our left, which is what I'm keeping my eye out for, because I don't want that guy to get my side and rear, because naturally he can fire some juicy ATGMs at us and his main cannon. We've got the 4-2-1-1 directly in front of us. He's the one that I'm focusing on to try and get rid of. The WZ-122 gets spotted, so I actually put myself in a position where he's not going to be able to just get a shot into my ass. And then the 4-2-1-1 actually attacked us as well. The medium tank, though, which is the 122, I think, is actually out in the open. So we're going to drive round. It's like, hello, Mr. 122, and we shut him down. There is a Sheridan coming from over there as well, though. Luckily, we get a butt bounce from the M60A3 that's now coming in. It's like, hello, Mr. M60A3. We get shot through his lower plate, and he makes the mistake. He ends up tracking us, which is great, but he makes the mistake of not pressuring us, and he should have charged straight towards us, got round our side, and had been fine. But he actually stops, and that means that we can just DPM him, and we shut down the M60A3, putting ourselves on 9.5k damage. 2 tanks left on the enemy team. It's 3-2, so this game is incredibly close. Now the Scorpion 90 is going after that medium tank, which is a T-55 Enigma, and the Enigma shuts down the Scorpion 90. We realised what was going to happen there, in that Sheridan, when we got spotted, was going to launch an ATGM at us. We popped smoke to hope that it mucked with the ATGM, but we were just a little bit too late, and sadly the ATGM flew in. But we do get the RBRT there into that T-55 Enigma, which is beautiful, shutting him down. I mean, it's now a 2v1. We're up to 9.8k damage with 5 kills, and unfortunately for us now, that Sheridan pops smoke and runs away. And now this leads to another 7 minutes of driving around, taking up a defensive position and waiting, and we don't get the opportunity to kill him as he drives in front of the other CTR, and the other CTR shuts him down. And finish the game with 5 kills, 9.8k damage, the first class, the high caliber, 1670 base XP, a really nice game there for the CTR, and you can see the other CTR had a banging game as well, well played to him. And yeah, I saved you the pain of 7 minutes of just driving there for that final game. What a final game that was for the CTR. Like I say, it can be a fun tank. You've seen that. It can be a very, very capable tank. It's just it struggles with no turret like it did in the first replay, and there's a fair few situations like that can arise for it. Era 2 can be a little bit too quick for this type of tank sometimes, but the DPM is phenomenal. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.